Hey, how you doing, people? Uh, I know in life, people have their opinions on what you should do and what you should not do. Uh, I think it's our job as humans, as we live on this earth, that we define who we really are. We have to find our purpose and find out what path we should take as far as human beings, uh, how we can impact the world, how we can impact our generation. Uh, Me being a millennial, I have my certain era. We have Gen Z, we have the baby bloomers, if I'm saying it right, baby boomers, whatever it is. We all have our certain objectives in life, and sometimes, if we don't know our own purpose, we can, our life can go a different, it can have a detour because we haven't really defined our own life as far as our own situations. And, we really have to define who we really are. We have to find our own path in life. No matter what our parents say, I'm not saying not to listen to your parents, but sometimes, their paths were different. Sometimes, their path was in a certain area, a certain field, a certain career, but that does not necessarily mean that you may take the same route. You know, your route may be different, but you may end up in the same destination. That means, having success, be able to pay your bills, but it may be a different route. You may go a different direction. Not knocking 9 to 5 jobs, not knocking those things, but your way may be different. You may not have to work a 9 to 5 job. You may have a gift that will open doors for you. That's unimaginable. But you can't let people just steer your whole life. You can't let people tell you, you should do this and then do this, because they sometimes, in a lot of times, people, and not putting other people down, but some people, they'll tell you to do this and do that, and they're not in the same field as you are. They haven't experienced the same things in life that you experience. As far as what you do, you may be in a certain field, you may be in the medical field, you may have taken this and that, class, and this person that's telling you you should do this never took those classes. They never took those certain steps to get where you really want to go. And so that's why it's very important to define who you really are in life, define your purpose, so people won't deter you from those things. People can easily lead you in the wrong direction. That's why you see a lot of, celebrities, they end up in a downfall because they listen to certain people, take this, take that drug in order for you to be, have a settled mind, and, it lead them down the wrong direction because they listen to the wrong people. And so in life, you have to define your own path. You have to figure out your purpose. Whoever you believe in, the creator, God, you believe in Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, seek direction on where your life need to go. Because sometimes we can be pressured to get in certain areas that we feel like we're not purposed to be in. Sometimes I feel like that myself. People say you should do this, you should do that, but if you feel like you purpose in your heart to do something that's different, go for it. Sometimes you get stressed out because this is not happening fast enough. But the key thing is you have to keep working at it. You got to keep working at getting that dream career that you really want. And that's the catch to it. You know, you follow your own path, but to prove that that path works, you have to work at it. You know, and I hate to say the word prove, but to a lot of people, you have to prove things in order for them to see, oh, you know, he knew what he was doing. He knew what path he had to take. He knew that this was his purpose in life, his or her purpose in life. And so, you know, people may be looking at YouTubers and say, oh, they're not doing anything. They're just making videos. They're just on YouTube making videos. It's a waste of time. But, you know, it's people out here making millions of dollars, thousands of dollars on YouTube every month because they had a purpose in their mind that they're going to keep staying consistent at this thing. They're going to keep going. They're not going to stop. You know, they're not going to stop doing what they love to do. And that's, you know, social media, that's doing content, being a content creator. And so, you know, everybody has their own path. I don't judge people with what they do and what their situation is. You know, everybody's situation is different. Everybody has their own path. I listen to what my parents say. I decipher what they say. You know, some things is for me and some things is not for me. And, you know, that's what I got through my head, you know. But I still, you know, honor and respect my parents and what, you know, the wisdom that they have. But, you know, things that they did in life, you know, may not be all the things I do in life, you know. And I have to come to that because, you know, it's things that I may want to pursue in life that they don't even look at, you know. Even though I may be a spitting image of my parents, you know, I'm not the same person. I'm my own person. And, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, I wouldn't say children, but, you know, the parent and child situation, you know, they may, you know, parents, you know, they'll tell you things, you know. It's good that parents tell you things, but, you know, you have to find your own path in life. You have to find your own direction. You know, even with, you know, friends, you know, friends may tell you you should do this, you should do that, you know, go this place, go this place, but it's up to you and your heart, you know, your decision where you want to go. But make sure whatever decision you make, you go forward, not backwards, you know, that you go forward and not backwards. So I just want to share those things with you, you know, because, you know, I've gone through those things, you know, I'm being transparent. You know, you go through the pressure of, you know, like I've told y'all, I got laid off from my job last year, and I don't want to rush into something that I really will waste more time not doing what I really love to do, you know. And I know that's, you know, in society, you know, they look at me, oh, you have to work, you have to do whatever you have to do in order to survive. I feel like that's have held, you know, especially black men back from, you know, their purpose in life, you know, especially if you have in your mindset that you have a purpose in life. I think that notion has held men back and caused them to be, you know, depressed and stressed out and feel pressure to do things they really don't want to do in life, you know. And they become depressed, they become angry at life, they become angry at their family because they're doing things they really don't want to do in life. But they feel pressure because, you know, they have to be, you know, the breadwinner. You know, they have to be this and that. They can't show emotion. And I saw a video yesterday, they was talking about how society doesn't give the man grace as much as the woman, you know, as far as giving grace. And, you know, a lot of women say, oh, we go through a lot, but a lot of men, you know, we go through a lot as well in life. And so, you know, all in all, you know, we have to define our own path in life. We have to figure out what path we really want to take in life in order for life to move forward, not backwards. And that's the key thing, you know. Once you find your purpose, you have to really work on it. You know, you can't be lazy, you can't procrastinate, you know, that's the thing. You know, I'm not telling people, you know, even though you don't want to work this job, you know, just be lazy and just kick back and just enjoy life. No, you still have to work hard at what you really love to do in life. Nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy. And just some people get favored. Especially like in this YouTube fields, people are favored with the opportunity that the algorithm really works in their favor. You know, Shout out to all the great content creators out there that really inspire and motivate people every day, and they're successful at what they do. And so again, appreciate y'all for watching, and hope y'all got something from this. All right, peace.